And so that's there is one thing, and I'll mention that when I look at a couple of iGo screens. There was one thing in iGo that we did miss, so I'll just cover that because it does cause a little bit of confusion. These couple of pages here aren't. We're getting further and further out, so probably not as many of these anymore. But if you did have a case that was submitted again, this program that I'm talking about went live April 24th. If you did have a case that was submitted prior to that and is still in underwriting, waiting for a client to complete their labs and an exam, if they're not done yet or the client hasn't scheduled to have them done the next day or two, you can request for it to go through the non-medical underwriting process. The underwriter will review it and let you know if we can go that route, right? So anything that was in-house prior to that, anything that came in after would have gone through this automatically. So that's just if anybody, like I said, we're about a month away or out now, so we're getting less and less of this. That's still sitting there. So the COVID, right? Our previous COVID-19 underwriting guidelines, those are retired now, and we're going with this obviously permanent non-medical program. Oops, sorry about that. I wanted to pull a link to share with you guys. So insure for the IUL and term, we go up to the age of 75. For our final expense products, we can consider people up to the age of 85. To go through non-medical, they have to be a U.S. resident. Nothing's changed on the juvenile guidelines. And while I'm on that, let me just, I get a lot of questions on juvenile guidelines. So since that's there, let me just mention it because I think we have some of the, over the last, I think it's about a year now, maybe almost 2 years now, I think it is, or something like that. We've changed our juvenile guidelines, and we probably have some of the looser ones in the industry outside or that I know of, right? Maybe maximum coverage amount. So, we will go up to maximum 1 million on a juvenile. For juvenile coverage, we will consider 250,000 even if the parents have no coverage at all, right? So a juvenile can get up to 250 even if the parents have no coverage or have less than 250. For anything from that 200 over 250 up to that 1 million, one of the parents has equal coverage, right? So if you have a parent who has $1 million and the other parent has no coverage, you could still do up to $1 million on those juveniles. So the maximum is 1 million for a juvenile. So that's where our juvenile guidelines are. And I always got to stipulate just in case. New York State and Washington State do have different rules. So if you happen to do business in either one of those two states, for juveniles, you need to check what those individual state rules are because they have their own rules for that, right? The express application, which is the non-medical, which is app without medical questions, is not available for non-medical face amounts, which again, I kind of covered. So quickly here on that, and I lost my PowerPoint again. There it is. All right. So I can change my screens. There's just 3 screens, and I kind of want to highlight. One on the term business, and oops, that's not it. I went too far, right? No, that's it. Oh, no, that's it. Yeah. Right. One on the term business, and then 2 on the IUL, right? So for term, in the past, if you've written a term, you would get to a point where it'd say, do you want to complete the non-medical part 2? So now, if it's in that non-medical agent face amount, that'll be automatic. It won't ask you. It'll automatically populate all the medical questions. Kind of, you can see the bracket there where they added all the pages in with the medical questions. On the IUL, it used to ask you on the licensing and appointment screen something along the lines of, does this, based on agent face amount, does this case require labs? And then if you said no, if you said yes, it would say ask you if you want to do an express app. So we changed that question, be more specific. It asks you based on the coverage amount. Is it somebody 18 to 45, 2 million or less, 46 to 55, 1 million or less? If you say yes, that means it's a non-medical case, and it won't ask you if you want to do an express option app. If you say no, then you'll get means it's a medical case, right? It's not non-med. The client has to do labs. So say 56 and above, you do have the option of doing the express application. Now, one of the things I will note, because if you check the wrong box, I go, we'll catch it, right? Meaning, if I say no, that it's not somebody 18 to 45 less than 2 million, and then I say yes to the Express app, and then I get to, let's say I'm doing a 500,000 on a 35-year-old. When I put in 500,000 for the face amount on the coverage screen, it's going to tell you that they're not eligible for the Express app because it's less than 2 million. So it's going to not going to let you do that, right? So it'll make sure you're filling out the right app. Now, I did mention there was one thing in iGo that we did miss out on, and on the agent report page, it still asks you if you're ordering the medical, if you're ordering the labs, right? So it's that question is still there. Eventually, we'll get that updated and have that removed for non-medical amounts. So you could just say no to that question, but even if you say yes, it's still gonna come in as non-med. Nobody's gonna be looking for those labs. And tell you, if you call the lab company and try and order labs for somebody in that non-medical face amount. So if you have someone, they didn't know about the program, the lab company's not going to take the order. They've all been updated with the programs are, what the agent face amount is. I received some of those calls already in the, since we launched this. As you know, large field force, it takes a while for everybody to know what the changes are. So I did receive some calls where somebody was like, well, try to order labs. They won't let me do it, right? Why? They said I don't need it. What's the deal, right? So kind of just some safety features there to try and make sure everything goes in through the right way. And I think it's a no-brainer why this is kind of a better process, right? As long as you set the right expectation, let the client know, hey, this will be submitted within a few days. We'll know whether or not you need labs or not. If you got if you've been healthy, have no history, we should be good to go. And then, the majority of those cases, you're going to get quicker underwriting decisions, faster turnaround, right? And a higher placement ratios. Obviously, anybody who's been in the business a long time has definitely either had a client who never did their labs, so didn't get coverage, or at least somebody who's put off doing labs for months, right? And I was telling people, my last life insurance policy that I bought, it took me months to do my labs. I was traveling a lot for work prior to COVID, and it took me a while to get those scheduled. So we've all been there and all dealt with it. So the clients can go through that non-med. It's just only going to help the turnaround time and even placement ratios, right, in terms of getting that business placed. Now, one other enhancement that went live on April 24th was expanded e-delivery for term business, right? So I'm going to address the elephant in the room right away. Term business only at this moment. The IUL e-delivery or enhanced e-delivery is looking at 2020, sometime in 2022. There is, and before I talk about the term, there is an e-delivery available on the IUL, but it's very limited, right? So for you to have your IUL e-delivered, you do need to submit a full signed illustration prior to print. That's something we don't normally require on a regular basis, right? You don't have to send that in prior to print. So that's one of the number one things that knocks it out. So, but if you want it e-delivered, if you check e-delivery on the app, you have to send in a full signed illustration prior to print, and then it cannot be issued with an amendment. So that's the other thing that knocks a lot out. So if somebody's approved other than applied for, there's going to be an amendment or something different, right? So that'll knock out the IUL. So the enhanced, and the reason we're going first with term and the IUL's in the works, and there's some other things that are in the works to continue to make that experience going to be even better once we do have it. So like I say, we look forward. I told about this and it better happen in the next year or so, right? But we look forward to the day where you could do an application under this non-medical program and where it be automated. So meaning a percentage of that business where you are able to submit that app, get an approval, and then get it e-delivered all within 24 to 48 hours. So that's kind of where it's going and why there's more pieces being built out. But so the e-delivery on the term, there's been an option there for a long time. But again, majority, like the IUL, a lot of them weren't able to go through. So what's been enhanced is you'll find rather than go through here, previous, and now, it's easier just to go through what's not available for e-delivery. So what you should find is about over 90, I would say 90 to the high 90% of your term business will be available for e-delivery. Probably closer to 99%, depending on the type of business you write. As long as if you're not doing a lot, especially you're doing all U.S. residents, and you're going to be closer to 99%, right? And the experience is going to be a lot better for the agent because you're going to have a dashboard where you'll be able to track it. You'll have access to a PDF of the policy, so we'll cover all that. So it's really been made a lot better. So, like I mentioned, what's easier to cover is what's not available for e-delivery, and that's term. Well, the first bullet point is really not important for term because we don't do term in New York and Puerto Rico. We don't do business in Guam and the Virgin Islands. So that's a moot point, right? If the owner of the term is not a person, if it's an organization or a trust, then we're not going to be able to do e-delivery. So that now got a few, right? If the insured or owner is not a U.S. resident, if the insured is a juvenile, that's not important for, again, that's not important for term. It's more of an IUL because term, you cannot do juvenile. If the payer is other than the insured or owner, and we need an EFT as a delivery requirement. So most of the time, the payer is the owner of the insured. There are some cases where they might not be. And if they aren't, as long as you've already submitted that EFT prior to delivery, it can still go e-delivery. So the only time where that one even matters is if you need the EFT, right, which is the billing ComCard form for bank draft on delivery, and the payer is not the owner of the insured. So again, that's going to be a very small percentage. And the last two are almost kind of no-brainers, right? Say, we need an email address because we cannot e-deliver without an email address. We can't e-deliver in the mail, right? So, I mean, that's a no-brainer. That's pretty simple and straightforward. And we do have to have the client's social security number. It cannot be missing. Again, as far as I'm aware of, we won't issue that without it anyway. So, right, that shouldn't be a problem. So those are something. So as you can see, if your client wants e-delivery, a majority of these your terms now will be able, just about all of them will be eligible. So they just simply, there's a question in IGO that asks, do you prefer to receive your documents electronically? You have to check on the e-delivery terms and conditions. That'll pop up the form with the terms and conditions here for electronic delivery. Kind of, you could review that. And then just check that box to consent to receive all your documents electronically. And then when they're signing the app via IGO, they'll be signing the form that consents to do business electronically. And obviously, very important, you want to review that email address. So here on this screen, this screenshot that they're showing, that email address is kind of grayed out. And that's because it would have already been entered in this screen here. It was already entered earlier. So if you already entered it in the proposed insured section or owner section, it'll carry it over automatically. If you didn't enter it there, you could enter it here. But if you want to verify it and just make sure that that's correct, obviously, right? Because that's where the policy is going to be emailed to. Once the policy is ready to be, once it's approved and being issued, we will email the owner of the policy and the agent that the policy is sent out for e-delivery. So you'll be notified once it's sent out. The owner is going to have a link via email that they can go into and sign for the policy. They have 15 days to electronically sign it. We will send a reminder email every 7 days. If they haven't signed it after 15 days, that link will no longer be available, and we will mail out a copy of the policy. You also, from your dashboard that is kind of the last screen here that I'll show you that you'll have access to, you also will have the availability to resend that link to your client, right? So if they don't see it in their email, you could, from your dashboard, you'll have the availability to resend them that email. So the client e-delivery notification, obviously so you'll know where it's coming from. It's gonna come from policydelivery@ipipeline.com. Right, sender will show as new business, subject line, your insurance policy is ready. It'll have your email address on there, right? It'll populate your email address for them to be able to contact you if they have any questions. And obviously, we would let them know. You're going to know once it was sent. So we know you're going to be wanting to get that completed. You follow up with them, make sure they see the email. If they don't see it, check their spam, or you could always resend them that link. Once they click on it to go through to e-sign it, they could just go in with the last 4 of their social and just review and e-sign the document. some term business doesn't have any delivery requirements, right? And I know a lot of that comes on state variations. I know in Texas, for example, it doesn't, there is no delivery requirement required. So a lot of businesses might not have it. If that's the case, they could just click on accept and it'll be accepted. And that's that, right? If it has requirements to be signed, just walk through it and electronically sign them. And then there is no agent signature needed. And then it'll route back to us. Case will get placed in force and your second advance will be paid out. The agent notification. So I mean, you'll get, the agent will be notified when the PDF, when the policy is sent out. So it'll let you know it's been sent for delivery. And then you actually, through your DocFast dashboard, you'll have the access to the PDF of the policy. While it's pending signatures, the PDF will have an in-process watermark on it. So I'll talk more about that and kind of how long that PDF's available, when that watermark goes away, and all of that here in on my next slide when we look at the dashboard, right? So agents who once you, so DocFast is the e-delivery platform. There's nothing to do until you have your first term sent out for electronic delivery. When you do, you will receive an email prompting you to create a DocFast account for your Transamerica policies. All right, some people I know have already gotten that, already have some that have gone that route. But if you haven't, once that first one does, you'll get that. And then you'll get assigned a username, create a password. You want to save that, and you'll be taken to your dashboard. And then this link here, I got to save that somewhere, but it is available, so I can copy it. It'd be easier. But that's the dashboard. That'll take you to the dashboard, right? So policy xpartnerportal.ipipeline.com. That, well, once you register, you'll have the link to take you there, and you can just bookmark it. But that's going to take you to the dashboard, which will show you all of your policies that have gone out for your delivery, what their status are, any alerts. They'll have access to actions and PDFs. This is what that dashboard looks like, right? So very similar to kind of what IGO looks like, right? If you look at your cases that are saved in IGO. Well, it's a different portal. And you'll notice like the first top one will tell you that it's expired, 0 of 2 signatures. All the bottom ones, all the signatures have been done. If you look there on the very right-hand side, there's something that says action. So that's where you would be able to resend the client the email if they hadn't gotten it. And it hasn't expired yet. And then you have a copy right there to the PDF of the policy, right? So you could download that PDF. So that PDF is available for 30 business days, or 30 days, sorry. It's available for 30 days. After 30 days, that PDF wouldn't be available anymore. And so while the signatures are outstanding, it would have an in-process watermark on it. That in-process watermark would go away. You'd be able to download it without that on it after one of 3 things happen. One, at any time they could opt out of e-delivery. So if they opt out of e-delivery, you'd be able to download the PDF without the in-process watermark. If they've electronically signed the document, now you'll have access to it without the in-process watermark on it. Or if the link for the 15 days has expired for your electronic signature, then you could download the PDF without an in-process watermark on it. So to give you an example, policy gets issued, gets emailed to your client for e-delivery. They don't see the email. You can't get in touch with them. 15 days passes, the link expires. We mail a policy out to them. At that time, you'd be able to download that PDF and get the delivery requirements, and you can even send them that way to have them signed, right? So kind of give you an idea of how that might work. And then always kind of lastly here, my contact information, our virtual wholesaler contact information. We're both here, right, to assist you guys, do whatever we can to help you grow your business. Eric does all sorts of webinars and trainings like this one. He even does some one-on-ones on illustrations and things like that. I'm always available to help if you have anything you have questions on, need help with. You're running into an issue with a policy, shoot me an email is best for that. My goal is to help you do whatever I can to help you grow your business. And do business with Transamerica. So I appreciate all that you guys do. Thanks for having me today. And if anybody has any questions here before we wrap it up, that they didn't ask, I'd be happy to answer them. One last thing real quick, actually, the link that I put in the chat, that link would be, we rebranded it insurance update. So it'll have all the information on what I covered today, plus frequently asked questions pages. And anytime we make any updates, it'll be posted on that web page. So that's a great site to bookmark.
Cool. That's awesome, Sal. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thanks for going over that. Thanks going over for all the good stuff and even some of the shortfalls. It sounds like things are getting worked on. So, hey, just like every company, it's not perfect, but as long as it's recognized and worked on, all the better. I did have a quick question on the agent dashboard.
Yep.
We recently just have a new agent that just got her first policy issued. The client received the link to sign, but the agent never received the link to set up her dashboard. Any idea where I could direct her to get help?
That hold on a minute. I have to double. I'm gonna write that. I'll touch base with you directly, and you can share it if anything. Let me check on that.
Cool. Anyone have any questions? Whether it's something in the presentation, whether it's regarding the products or the application process, the dashboard, the electronic delivery. This will be a great time to ask. We got a few minutes here before the hour ends.
Hey Sal, good seeing you, man. So I have a question about so does the non-med option applies to the in-force policy changes? Some of them. Or?
Yeah, so they would, if somebody applies for a policy change, they're gonna look at it. Yeah, if we can underwrite them non-med, they're gonna underwrite them non-med. Yeah.
Okay. Because the reason I asked because last year during COVID, I had a client that gone through the non-med option, but at the time it was the best class available was standard.
Right. Yep.
Yeah.
So clients are now who did go through that process. When they apply for their policy change, they could still possibly now get the best possible rating without doing labs. Yep.
Fantastic. Thanks, man.
You're welcome.